All right, it is 6:30. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nate, if you would do roll call, please.
Sure. Caban?
Here.
Hirschfeld? Here. Hein?
Yes, here.
Purdue?
Here.
Kruger?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Everybody is here. Announcement of the Open Meetings Act. We've got proof of publication. This meeting being held this evening. It was also posted at the post office, Max Golden Grounds, and at the courthouse out in the hallway there. Does everybody have a copy of the previous meeting's minutes? Any discussions or motions to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Gruber?
Aye.
Hirschfeld?
Yes.
Purdue?
Yes.
Hein?
Yes.
Caban?
Yes. Minutes are approved. So this will be our new public comment period. So with the new state law on Open Meetings Act, we have to have a public comment period, which we've always done, I think, for all of our meetings, so it's going to be nothing new. So prior to moving into the conditional use permits or looking at the comprehensive plans and solar, we'll go ahead and open for public comment at this time. We will keep it limited to 3 minutes. So if anybody would like at this time, go ahead and come forward. When you do come forward, please state your name and address. Hey, would there be a separate public hearing for each conditional use permit then too?
Yeah, grant just for that if that okay.
Make sure that's on. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see everyone again. I'm Dustin Marvel on behalf of Omaha Public Power District. After watching the football game this last weekend, it kind of seems like we're in a similar journey as the Huskers right now, of course. Even though we've gotten close to getting some solar regulations together, it feels like we're still working on that right balance for success. Just like Coach Rule, right, isn't afraid to shake things up, it feels like you have an opportunity here to also make some decisions that could be courageous to put us in a path to make those final decisions matter. York County really is ready to make some transformational changes. We can do that, for example, by partnering with things like renewable energy and our precision farming. And what that really does for York County is it drives precision agriculture forward. We can do that with a solar project. Readdressing the solar regs, I know, can seem daunting and perhaps even unnecessary to some, but with your dedication, we can really bring this entire topic together from all the stakeholders and find an approach that could last, right? So some probably think I'm only interested in building the K-Junction Solar Project. I assure you, it is important that we acknowledge all of the voices in the community because everybody's viewpoint matters. And that gives us the opportunity to work together as one community to find effective regulations. Just as the Huskers respond to adversity, we have that opportunity here as well. And we could do that this second go around. Another chance for us to work together is really to address some of what we've heard over this 3 years roughly it's taken to get to this point, right? We know there are some certain fears out there about losing prime farm ground. Let's discuss that. The anxieties about solar panels in nearby fields. We can talk about those things, right? We have opinions about who's benefiting from projects in the county. We need to work through these things as one. There's also questions or thoughts out there about what's the reliability of solar? How does government subsidies support or really reduce energy costs? These are topics we're welcoming you guys to talk with us about, and let's bring in all of those stakeholders. Feeling these worries is perfectly normal, but we have to have the courage to discuss them with all of the stakeholders involved so that we can really embrace that transformational change that is on the horizon. Coach Rule and this board are both working on the same thing, quite honestly, of getting on that right mix to find balance that will be lasting success, right? I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I know this probably isn't the topic you wanted to readdress, but your commitment really is important to Nebraska and York County. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Cale Geese. I live at 110 Blaine Street in Wayne, Nebraska. And I'm also here representing OPBD tonight. And I feel kind of silly that I don't have a cool football metaphor now, but Dustin works on the government affairs side. I'm on the new generation side. So we work together in these things. And I want to piggyback a little bit off of what he said, that there's pros and cons to every generation source decision that we make. There's no magic bullet when it comes to producing electricity. And luckily we have a bunch of Nebraskans who are working really hard across the state on behalf of everyone in Nebraska to keep our rates amongst the lowest and the most reliable in the nation. And just as there's no magic bullet for generation decisions, you guys are all tasked with a responsibility where there is no black and white correct answer. You are tasked with the responsibility of balancing, multiple interests, property rights of those who choose to participate, those who choose not to participate. And I guess if anything, I want my message here tonight to be, we want to do everything in our power to help you be as informed and comfortable with the decision that you are tasked to make as possible. And I think that means working collaboratively with everyone in the room and starting a discussion. So I also wanted to make note that, understand that York has a rich agricultural history here. And I understand that. I am a 6th generation farmer up in Wayne, and our operation, we're located in between 2 of the largest renewable energy projects in the state. So I'm well aware of the impact that these types of projects can have. Farmers, they're tough people. They're resilient, they're innovative, and they're constantly trying new techniques and technologies to get the most out of their ground, preserve their legacy, keep the name on the farm. And that's what York County farmers have done here. Some have chosen to adapt a new type of technology to do just that. And before I close, I just wanted to kind of formally request you to ask us to put us to work for you. We are very happy to present to you, to host a Q&A. We can bring up some specialists that can help shed light on some of the more technical and safety matters that are associated with the project. So with that, I wanted to thank you, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Bullard Peterson, 514 Road 13. My address is York. I'm a proud resident of the Bradshaw area, but I have to say York for an address. Anyway, I'm here specifically talking about the solar zoning and so forth. I have been to, I think, all but one of any kind of meeting that's been held in any form on the solar projects. I have literally read way north of 100 articles that I did not pick out. When I saw something about solar, I read it. So there's a balance between pro, con, nobody cares, or whatever. And some things that I've heard over the last, some things that I've gleaned for myself over the last 3 years is the fact that in those articles, I can find many articles that are dead set against solar, many articles that are for it and say, the people that don't like it, they're full of baloney. And the people that don't like it are saying the people that do like it are full of baloney. And it's just, that's the way it is with any topic you want to find ever. But thinking in terms of where some of the initial zoning things came from, It just appears to me a couple of specific things. What I never did understand is what some of the setbacks between one farm on one side of the fence and another farm on the other, and it's just farm ground, you know, been that way forever. But some of the setbacks, I thought, what is really the purpose of having super far setbacks on that? I can see it around where residences are and so forth. But a lot of what the original setbacks you were talking about was, it doesn't take too much of a rocket science to figure out that they were trying to zone solar out because the setbacks were down to where you couldn't really use anything. I don't have as much of a problem with setbacks around a residence or something, but from fence to fence, I don't see the purpose of having much of a setback. The people that don't like this project, there is no amount of setback that would ever satisfy them, unless it would just be to, you know, for you guys to say no solar. So anyway, those are some thoughts that I've had. The other thought I've had, and I've talked to so many people that because I've more or less talked to people on both sides of the issue, and I've talked to many of the people that are really anxious to, to work with solar for their ground, but those are the people that won't show up. And I've tried to tell them and tried to tell them. So there are people out there that are really for this. Was that for me?
Yeah, it was time.
That was done. It's a weird noise, sorry.
Only for me. Anyway, thank you.
Changed on there. I don't think that was. Actually, didn't know what noise it was. Perfect. Does that work?
Yeah, they hear it.
Good evening. Galen Reel, 1204 Road 1, Fairmont. I'm more associated with the McCool area, and I do live in York County. If this project as it's proposed goes in, I could see panels from my living room windows. I farm on 2 properties that would join where panels and equipment is supposed to be put in. So addressing Willard's comment, I do have a little concern of having solar panels right up next to where I would be farming. I guess the one farm adjoins NPPD's substation on that 345 line. And when I'm farming on that field, I lose my GPS signal from time to time. So I wonder what's going to happen area-wide when anybody's near the solar panels. Is that possibly going to happen? One other thing, you talk about having people come up in support of it. I know 2 people that have signed up to it close to me that would both like to get out of it. And so, thank you.
Jim Jackson, 907 Road 2, Fairmont. That's about halfway between Lushton and McCool in York County. This is about the 3rd anniversary of this conglomeration. EDF and the OPPD have one thing in common. All they ever talk about is the nameplate, which is their capacity to produce electricity, and the money the tax we're going to raise from the tax and the energy. And to say it's a solar farm is a misdemeanor. That should be, a misnomer. It should be called a solar, industrial solar compound, because it's gonna have all those friendly signs around, fence put around it, it's gonna say, do not enter danger, high voltage. The other thing I'd like to recall is, last Saturday was the beginning of rifle season. Well, 3 years ago, we run quite a few cattle in the stock field, so I drive around pretty early in the morning to see what's happening. 3 years ago on that very day, I see a service truck and a crossover car stopped in the middle of the soybean field in the section I live in. Then when I went around in the evening, I see a bunch of survey stakes. Then in March, we got a bunch of those checkerboard deals, and they had 17 flights over Hayes Township with the twins. You know, they were taking pictures of us all, and they already had, you could, but anyway, they're pretty, we don't know another thing about the the solar panel setup, other than those three things. So what's the big secret? I was in the military, I wish we could have kept the secret that long. Thank you.
Anybody else have any?
G. Jackson, 216 Road K. This ain't football, boys. Transparency, we've had none. None of our questions have been answered. Each one of those leases has a right to drill a well on it. Last we heard, they wanted their workers to wash their hands. What about soil erosion? How about the heat they're gonna produce? All the other pollution stuff, they have not answered one question. I think we ought to go back to the original statements, just like the setbacks that Gage County had. That's where this all started. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Last call. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the conditional use permit for Dustin Crispin. At this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing portion of that. At this time, we'd like to have Dustin and representatives go ahead and give an overview of what has been proposed here in the permit, and then we'll go from there.
All right, Dustin Crispin, my wife Paige, Travis Cashton, he's our ag engineer. Basically, we're just trying to be proactive on building a new farm and asking for a conditional use permit in the instance that we are lucky enough to grow the business to where we're over 300 animal units. Basically, outside housing, you know, netted pens and some buildings.
Everybody had a chance to look over the permit that they have here. Any questions for Mr. Crispin? Because with this facility, if I'm correct, how far would you be away from the swine facilities, looking at this one especially, that would be just to the west of you?
I got a map I can maybe,
Go ahead, and I just,
you want me to say my name and everything?
yep, yes, if you would, please.
I'll just slide here. Travis Casperson, 324 6th Avenue, St. Laborie, Nebraska. I work for Sechi Agri Services and Engineering out of Raymond, Nebraska. We design, engineer, permit, specialize in livestock operations. And so what I printed out, I guess, is a map that would show, so from talking to Nathan, that was the challenge, is where does this fall? What class, what category does this fall in? And so from my understanding, this would be an aerobic class 1. And so the setbacks would be 0.25 to the north and south and 1.125 east and west.
And so we're talking 30 to 50,000 birds would get you to that 300 to 500 animal unit?
That's correct. Well, it'd be less than, yeah, it'd be the 300 to 1,000 of that class.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
And so the two oval shape, what they are is then, what we did, we just went around the residence and then the swine facility and did that setback to make sure. So you can see on that 40, it will cut into part of that 40. And we'll just have to stay away, unless he gets an impact easement from that neighbor, he'd have to stay away from that area. So the barns could go anywhere in that pink.
I would assume, I guess being somebody that's from the animal health arena, you're fully aware of influenza transmission between swine and poultry, right? And especially this year, it's been a mess. So just something to consider.
I have a vet on staff that.
Who is your better record?
Brad Gleason.
Brad's better record? Okay. Yeah, just with the whole high path and everything, that's something that's definitely in our public eye and gentlemen, anybody else have questions before I keep rolling here?
Does that setback go from the center of that?
You can the edge.
Yes.
And that's the buffer.
Right, that would be.
Yeah, so
I think our zoning says like 20 acre of setback, I believe. If I read this right, maybe you can translate that a little bit better. So if that means 20 acres of area.
which the would be between there.
Yeah,
Those
yes.
40s.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Has anything been pursued yet from the standpoint, I mean, manure management plan, NDE permits?
No, typically when we do it, we'll go through the county first and then do it after, because if the county don't approve it, there's no reason to go that path. But I would say that could be a condition, you know, they gotta do that, so. The next step would be doing a request for inspection from the state. They'd come out and say controls required or exempt or whatever.
Have we verified, or Nathan, you verified what class this actually is? Do we agree?
It would be what?
It would be in that class 1 range calculations. Is where it stands today. Any expansion after that, it could potentially move up.
Up to a certain point to stay within zoning, yeah.
Yeah, stay within that range.
Right, which couldn't be a whole lot more animals, right? Up to 1,000, otherwise the setbacks change.
300 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, a lot of these maps is the first time we've been had a chance to look at them here.
800 by 450, weren't they? The buildings, I believe. Or 80 by 450, 80 by 450?
50 by 500.
50 by 500, okay.
And those would actually be buildings.
Yes.
Dirt floor, tunnel vent.
They're,
What's the 30 by 50? Another building?
Now, do you currently operate some facilities that are similar to this, correct?
Did those go through a similar conditional use permit plan?
No, at some point I want to talk about that, just see what the next steps are on those, but I mean,
So no permitting there currently?
For a conditional use,
Yeah.
there's only one form that's above the 300.
And any NDE, York County?
they haven't done anything, no.
Where do we stand on getting that completed before we even look at doing another facility?
Well, my recommendation is that'd be the next step is, yeah, to just get all the paperwork done on everything. I think this, I'm not sure how this even come about, I guess, but this was a proposed one, and so I think that's when I kind of got caught. I mean, you can explain, Nathan, I guess, that how, I guess it got started, but.
I mean, if you guys want me to give an elaboration. Last, I think it's earlier this year actually, there was I was alerted by the assessor office that either earlier this year or last year that there were some permits missing for the big farm. Contacted Mr. Crispin about it. We've been in touch since. I know he's an attorney. I talked to the attorney about that too. It's been kind of an ongoing process, talking to Mr. Crispin and his attorney about possibly getting permits started process for our existing farms already. And that's kind of about where we're at. We don't have any permits yet for those. My understanding from Mr. Casperson, you said that was hoping to have those moving next, but I haven't seen anything for those yet.
And this was my attorney's recommendation after talking with Nate and myself was, hey, I'd like to start another farm. And she said, okay, let's just get to conditional use up front on that. I mean, I might not go over the 300 units there ever, but just be up front because we're notified, oh, we need to do this. And she said, so let's just, let's show good faith, let's get it done up front, and then, let's address, and we've been working with Nathan on those next steps to do that.
So my question would be, is a conditional use application needed above 300 or at any? Because I think we've kind of gone back and forth. My interpretation is once you get to 300 animal units, that's when you need it. So if we'd be at, say, 25,000 birds, you wouldn't need it.
Correct. By my understanding.
That's not the way we've interpreted it before. That's not the way myself and other attorneys in the office have looked over it. We were interpreting that any intensive animal feeding unit needs a conditional use. The number just gets you to setback requirements. So if you have a certain number of birds, you have to be sort of set back further, but any intensive feeding unit, farm, whatever, you need a conditional use permit. That's the way we've interpreted it.
And Mr. Casper, what point would a manure management plan have to be in place? What animal unit number?
You mean in the book?
Well,
Or
for the state.
Well, state, you have to do a request for inspection if you're 300 animal units.
That's what I thought.
And so I still don't mean a manure management would be in place. You could be exempt. We've got 5,000 head facilities that are exempt as far as feedlots. And so, but generally speaking, 300 to 999 head is considered a medium operation, and generally speaking, most of those are exempted and do not have a nutrient management plan.
Really?
Yeah.
You got a nutrient management plan, don't you? You do, right, Jaden?
No.
You don't have that one? Okay. That's the same, all our facilities we do.
Do you have a holding pond?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm buildings,
Okay.
birds.
But, and generally, again,
Mhm.
they can be required depending on how close they are to the water of the state, if it's going to discharge in there. They could have controls required. A small could have controls required, but generally, most of those are exempted with conditions.
One thing on my farms is we're seasonal too. The only time we're ever full is kind of August, September, when birds are going out. Part of them pens or maybe the entire farm sits empty for 6 months. And the majority of what we're looking at for numbers is outside flight pens, which, we grow milo or corn or some type of management, through those pens every year after the birds are, out of those pens are disked and rototilled and, something's planted for the next season. So it's, there's no manure to haul around, out of those. Of course, in a building, where we put bedding down, there's dry bedding, and it's not tons, it's nothing compared to a chicken or a turkey type of barn, so.
Okay.
The pheasants are an aggressive, species that takes a lot of space per bird, so we just can't cramp birds, like you can in a chicken or a turkey house. We just, that they'll kill each other, so we can't do that.
Okay. Anybody?
I don't want to get in the weeds too much because this is the permit at hand.
Yep.
But again, if someone could give us more insight on the 300, because I guess I don't know, if you went below 300, then does that mean 10 head? I mean, who all needs to come in for conditional use then? I mean, because there's got to be a minimum somewhere, right?
So that's different attorney understanding, but that's the attorneys too, so that's, I'm gonna leave that to them, I guess.
I guess I can't tell you a specific number at this point. I'm simply saying it's kind of a null point that numbers you're looking at are in that range anyways.
Well, but I mean, on some of the other ones, because some of them are less than 30,000. So,
Those would be the other ones we talked about, right? Not this one today.
yeah.
We just, if nothing else, we'll have a follow-up conversation about that.
Any other questions for them before we open it up to the remainder of the room? Okay. All right, we will go ahead and open it up to the remainder of the room for.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This is specific just for this.
Yeah, and this is specifically for this conditional use permit. So if anybody would like to come up for the hearing portion or have any comments, it will be the same rules. Please state your name, address, and then we'll have a 3-minute time limit.
Hand these out to you guys. Done this before. Keith Hoffman and my wife Cassie, 609 Road B, York. Anyways, we're here supposedly with the zoning. Sounds like we have so many birds, but who's counting these? You gonna take this guy's word for it? Because he's full of crap, not packing them in there. Give me a break. They're
We have
packed
pictures.
in there.
We
And
presented
then
to
you deal
you.
with dead birds, the smell. It's ridiculous. I don't wish that on anybody. So hopefully Plox don't have to deal with this crap either.
Or Matt Clark. That's kind of why we're here. We have a sick child. Mr. Chrisman and Mrs. Chrisman knew this. This affects her health. She had a kidney and liver transplant. I would not be here if it wasn't for her. I don't give a crap what he does with whatever, but the pins that are by our house, you can literally stand on our porch and throw a rock and hit it. That's how close they are to our front porch. And I don't understand why there was no setback put in place. Well, from what I understand now, nobody even knew that he was putting these pins up.
And I got some messages in there he put on Facebook with his aunt. You can tell what he did there, trying to buy her property. And I got text messages with him and me. Same thing. If it's such an inconvenience, just sell me your property. Well, screw you, because now my house is devalued, putting that crap across the road from me.
Who's gonna wanna buy our house?
Like I said, anything he says, lie. Lie. Promise you. Lie.
Unless he has it in writing somewhere that how many birds he has per pen.
I mean,
How many birds did he kill off during the bird flu? Nobody got a hold of us about that too.
Sure,
They
he
were
lied
in
about
there.
that, too.
They were in hazmat suits. And we have 3 children that were less than 50 yards away. Nobody talked to us about it.
so for plots,
I guess
wish
that's,
this not happen to you.
right. I guess
Pray
that's
that
what
it
we're
doesn't happen
here
to
to defend everybody else that might come into contact with this farming situation.
Haven't been able to open our windows in our house for, what, how
3
many
years.
years? However many years he has them, they're so loud, they never shut up. day, night, doesn't matter. They're squawking all the time.
We have videos too, we're more than be willing to share with you guys.
You don't make good neighbors, so I would,
And we have tried reaching out to the zoning administrator all the way back, and
before you got there,
yes,
the zoning, when he was trying to put the pins up, we were trying to call and he would never,
we've
ever
even
calls back.
made trips down here, and they always said he was in court or too busy. And that was back in 2022.
I mean, he pretty much gets to dictate the price of our property. I mean,
Yeah,
I've had a realtor come out there, she said it's definitely gonna hurt the price of our property. I mean, there's no question about it. None of you would want to buy your house, I promise you wouldn't. It's miserable.
That is time.
thank you.
I guess my question is, how would they count to know?
Let's go ahead and do public hearing. We'll finish it out and then go back and do some more discussion. Anybody else? All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion on the conditional use permit for Mr. Chrisman. Go ahead and have a discussion amongst.
I mean, how would they know exactly how many's in each bin? Because some of these, they do look, looking at the, let's see, the third to last picture, it does look pretty full. And then some other ones, they don't look quite as full. I guess, just how do you know at one given point how many animal units are there at one point? Is that something like they keep record of? Or?
If I remember correctly, Game Farm, you're permitted under Nebraska Game and Parks, correct? How often does the Game and Parks do a spot check?
Yearly. Yearly we report, sales and egg production and, we're permitted in Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, we're governed by them. We're part of the National Poultry Improvement Plan. We test, every 4 months for avian influenza and everything to transport across state lines and everything, health papers, and we fill out lots of paperwork to do, all those things through the government, agencies.
Otherwise, it would be Nate out there checking.
Then they would have to count to 50 or 30 or something like that. A few extra toes. But yeah.
I know at hand is currently this permit on the table. But I do say, my opinion is if we do put any conditions on this permit, they would definitely lean on completion of the other permit as well. I'm a little concerned that if our zoning administrator was contacted prior to you, Nate, and nothing ever happened, that's something I think county commissioners might need to look into if that is all truly happening. Especially when we had a high path break down there, there probably should have been some red flags.
I guess, yeah, that would be the one big concern. I mean, was this neighbor, this farmstead here, were they ever notified? I don't know whose residence that was. Were they notified of
this meeting?
Yeah,
Yes.
they were.
Per regulations, I just sent out to Christmas and any adjacent landowners, so they got notice of this meeting.
So this is Underwoods up here, I'm assuming?
No, that'd be Clark's.
That's Clark's. This is south. This would be north.
Correct.
So Clark's down, oh, that's Allen's down. Okay. This is where Weaver Basin, that's what I was calling it.
Oh, yeah.
Spur. It was agriculture over here. So they'd have to be mid-farm to miss that wind.
I guess I kind of share some same concerns about having an unpermitted operation operating.
I do say as an individual that raises livestock myself and had to go through all that permitting, and it's got some serious consternation for myself as well to throw another permit out there before we solve an open one.
Well, maybe we can, there's really no reason we cannot approve this when it obviously falls in our regulations. We can put the conditions on there of these other stuff being resolved before this one actually goes forward. You know, or something like that, I believe, Nate.
Should be able to, you just need to put some type of time frame on that, like within X time.
Right. Now here's after the testimony of this, here's the crazy part. If it's under 300 units, can't do nothing. Correct?
Convinced that.
If this one would be above, that we see here, would be above.
You have less than 30,000 birds at your home place?
Can't touch it.
But you said you have some of the same buildings there, correct?
Some of the same buildings?
That you were gonna build on this site?
No.
So the other permit is for the one down by the river then? Where's this other?
Yeah, the larger one's down on the north side of the river.
Okay. South of your house, down in there, Bailey's. Okay.
How many are there?
On that main farm, about 89.
And that's what here? Yeah.
At my house,
That's
20,000.
And no buildings at your house?
There's one,
One?
which is 75 foot or yard, 75 yards directly north of our house. We have our windows open, which is the actual, brooding house, exhaust fans. So really how much guys that know chickens and poultry barns. So a building, I have 2 exhaust fans on it that are 24 inches. How many animals can we really, put in there, or how much, smell could be coming out of something that you can manage with 2 24-inch fans outside. You look at a chicken barn, turkey barn, you're talking lots and lots of ventilation, lots of.
What is like the max capacity that it could hold, not what you have at a time? Like, would you be able to get above that animal unit limit? Like, do you have the capabilities to go above that?
On my new farm? Or on the one we're proposing?
Well, I guess, yeah, this one, if you build these 50 by 500s, do you have the capabilities to go above that?
In the 50 by 500s?
Yeah. No. Your existing ones, though, do you have that capability? Just for out of curiosity, I guess.
Which farm are you talking about?
Well, how many do you have total?
7?
7? Are any of them?
The home place, I think, is
The
the
home
one
farm
that.
is the concern of everybody of the conditional use that, that we built 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
And there hasn't been any permitting since then?
Yes.
What about this one? I guess I don't know what you call this one. The one with the house right here. I take it this is not your house? What's like the...
Have you seen this picture before?
Have you seen this house, how far it is off the road? I mean, that's kind of a concern.
I have not seen this picture before, no.
Down a road, how they got their house so close to a road, that's really not.
Orville Stair gave us that permission.
Yeah, okay. well-
Yeah, and we got permission from the county. to
Orville
build.
Stair.
Everybody-
Okay, but you're still a little
Let's
close to
keep
the
it-
road, so that's not a
Everybody?
problem.
Please, keep order in the room. I would appreciate it. At this time, public hearing is closed, and if this with just any questions or discussion that we may have amongst us.
I guess what I just meant what my question was, like Nathan was just telling me we have to go by what it's capable of having, not what it's going to have. So I guess I was just curious on any of these if
Yeah,
you...
we're maxed out. I have nowhere
You're
else.
maxed out, okay.
Nowhere else.
That was my question, thank you. Yeah, okay.
So what is traditional stocking rate per foot, or how many birds per square foot?
Usually in game birds, 25 to 35 square foot per bird. If you're gonna raise them without, specs, 65 to 70 square foot.
And the outside pins is 25 to 35, I think that in the building.
outside.
But your building,
Inside breeders, we run about 8 to 9 square foot per bird.
Any other discussion? Or motions or conditions on the existing permit that's in front of us?
I think it's worth it. And then the new ones, you go with the other ones. Certain numbers.
If that's the case, then you have to have a motion with a timeline and that condition put on this one.
Or a motion to make no action.
Possible as well.
I think that's what we need time to do research on, is why some building permits haven't been issued or been filed for the.
I'd agree with that. I think you need to look into this a little bit more, I mean, and see why the other ones went through, and with this one, I mean, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. I'd like to look into it a little bit more before making a judgment on this one.
Anybody have a motion?
I guess I'd make a motion to table this until our next December meeting, and then that way we have time to do some of our homework and come back and reopen it up for discussion. Sounds reasonable.
Second.
Got a second? Jason? Want to do a roll call? Or, is there any other conditions we put on it, or just roll with it to table it till next month?
It's against them.
Okay.
Okay, Hoover.
Yes.
Purdue.
Yes.
Hirschfeld.
Yes.
Stein.
Yes.
Kavon.
Yes.
So, and just for clerical point, we're going to touch this earlier. The next one, we're doing every third Monday of the month, so that'll be the 16th of December, assuming that works.
Should still work.
So, you're tabling it till the 16th.
Correct.
Okay.
I would imagine.
All right, we'll go on ahead and move on to the next topic then, is comprehensive plan update and the future plan, Marvin Planning and Consultants update.
Good evening. I've got some things to hand out real quick.
Thank you.
Couple more.
One more thing.
Let me just get my notes pulled up real quick.
No, you're good.
Okay, my name is Mason Herman with Marvin Planning Consultants. We are at 382 North 4th Street in David City. I am here tonight to talk about the comprehensive plan, touch base a little bit. I believe our firm was last year in July of this year. And I think at that time we touched a little bit about the comprehensive plan, kind of, you know, your guys' vision for how we move forward with this document. I'm going to talk a little bit about community engagement, you know, some of the things I handed out to you guys tonight. They're all in draft form. And then review just a couple of key things we've noticed from working on the plan so far. So a couple things I want to touch base on with the comprehensive plan. I think especially here in York County, it's going to serve a couple of really important purposes. One, it'll be a record in time showing demographic data. It will show what you guys have as far as facilities. We'll take a look at land use. The most important part will be people's input into the document. You know, David City's not that far away, but if we were to sit there in David City and write you guys a plan for the future without anybody's input in this room or outside of this room, it would do you no service. So the major part of this plan is it needs to reflect everyone's views and values in the county. So there's that portion, it'll be that record in time. The second portion will be goals and policies. Really important when it comes to future decisions you guys want to make, future decisions for the county. I'm not aware of how old your comprehensive plan is now. I think it was about 20 years.
No,
Last was
we got one.
2014, adopted in 2015.
Yeah.
Okay, apologize. So, but still, 10 years. I mean, there's been a lot of change in the last 10 years in the world, let alone Nebraska, York County. So what we want to do is give you a document that sets you up with goals and policies for, you know, the different version, a different vision for York County than 2014 or 15. You know, this document will have, you know, check boxes for you guys to hit on here's what the next 5 years look like, next 10 years, next 20. So really it's those two purposes. We want to give you a document that reflects the values of the county, but also just sets you up for the future with whatever decisions you want to make. So second piece I want to touch on tonight, I'll start with, this is a draft, it's a mock-up of postcards that we'll be mailing out to the county, to residents, to everyone's in the county. You know, we'll distribute them at post offices, grocery stores, where people go. On the back side, there is a QR code that links to the project website where we will post updates, you know, as far as when is the town hall meeting, how are we, the survey results, a link to the survey. Basically just a transparency tool so everyone knows what's going on in the county during this process. These postcards are just one means of getting word out about the project. We'll of course also put ads out on social media, the newspaper, any method you guys may deem as really important, or like, hey, this is how you're going to reach people, we'll do it. Because again, we want to reach as many people as possible. And like I said, these are draft. If you don't like the way this looks, it's not going to offend me. Graphic design is not my passion, so if you have any input, by all means. Second part I want to touch on real quick is these posters that I handed out. Again, this is just another way to get the word out. We want to put this up around places where people go in the county. A link to the project website, kind of let people know what's going on, and another QR code to take the survey. So, again, any input on the poster, totally appreciated. The last thing I want to just go over real quick with you guys is the survey. This was compiled a couple months ago, and I think that we had some revisions. We just want you guys to take a look at it, make sure we're hitting everything right. You know, there are sections in here where we ask, where do people go to spend money for entertainment? If there's a community we missed, things like that, you know, please provide input. This survey is just a major part of this project. You know, again, we have the posters, we have the postcards. The survey is another great way for people to provide input. You know, if somebody doesn't want to go to a town hall and talk in front of, you know, 20, 30 people, they can take the survey. It's available by paper or online, so somebody that doesn't have a computer, they can still take the survey by paper and get that info to us. A couple things I want to preface. You know, I've only been doing planning for about 5 years. Keith Marvin, our office, has done it for about 40. He says that there was a time where everyone took surveys. Everyone showed up to town hall meetings. That's not the case anymore. I'm pretty bad about it too. I will throw away surveys I get in my mail. You know, we will make every effort to make sure people take the survey. It may not be a statistically significant number of people. We've done projects in Grand Island and had 500 surveys. You know, what is that? Like 1%, if that, of people in Grand Island. Then you can go do it in a rural county in Kansas and get 30% of the population. There's no rhyme or reason. I just wanted to preface that you know, we'll make every effort to make sure people take the survey, but if people don't, you know, that's okay, because we are getting word out by the posters, by the postcards. We have means of input you can provide on the website. We have a map on there where people can drop pens and say, hey, this road really sucks right here, or hey, I really love this. We want to preserve this part of the county, whatever that may be. And a place for people to upload photos too. So again, we're trying to reach every method possible for people to give input. The last thing, I think this will be the most important one, is we'll have a town hall meeting for people to show up. We'll ask questions to them, they'll ask questions to us, you know, just a very transparent type of meeting. We need to schedule that, and preferably after the holidays. I'm guessing nobody wants to go to a meeting on December 20th. But we need to schedule that town hall meeting and figure out a good place for it, you know, with a lot of room. Again, we'll make sure we get the word out on the website, newspapers, so people have a chance to show up.
Is that town hall prior to the completion of the survey?
Yes.
So you'll be able to push the survey at that point as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I think ideally January would be great, sometime after the holidays. We'll coordinate that with you guys here within the week. Make sure we get that on the calendar. So, are there any questions on that with community engagement?
Let's look at this really quick. It is a pretty comprehensive survey. And is it one of those, and this is something we can discuss later too, but do they have to fill everything out, or can they go through, these questions I don't care for, I can go skip this section and go fill out this section?
Great question. Yeah, it is a lengthy survey. We can certainly cut questions down if you guys want us to, but no, you don't have to answer every question. So we do ask questions about agriculture in here. If you're not a farmer, you can skip those. So on average, it takes about 15 minutes to complete, but if you skip things, it can be quicker. So,
and when the survey starts and closes, opens and closes, I guess, timeline?
We can open it once we start getting the postcards out, and usually we'll keep it open about 3 or 4 months, a couple months before the town hall, a couple months after. But again, if nobody's taking it, we'll revisit that, try to get word out again and keep it open. So ideally 3 to 4 months would be the perfect timeline.
Do you generally have a percentage goal? Because it'll be open to anybody in the county, correct?
Anybody, yep.
Do you shoot for, you hold 30%, or, I mean, is there?
Let's see, I barely passed statistics in college. I think 30% is statistically valid. That is hopeful. I would say 10 to 15% is a good number. And again, if there are any questions, just please reach out. You know, these are draft forms with the survey. If there's anything we missed, just please reach out, and then we'll get that finalized. We can start getting the postcards out and get the word out about the project. I did want to touch on a couple things. We have been working on the plan document itself. We've gone through a lot of the demographics, some of the things that really stuck out to us that will inform some of these goals and policies when it comes to housing, comes to economics. The population here, as you guys well know, going to review some things you probably are aware of. The population hasn't really changed; it's stayed pretty steady. I mean, that's a great thing. Obviously, the interstate, York being right here, being a bigger community, that helps. But we work in so many rural counties, so many counties even along I-80 that the population does this. So I think that's number one, huge thing going for you guys. The population is not changing. So when you're making big decisions for the future with land use, for housing, all these things, That's a big thing to keep in mind, is that you're not losing people. People are actually moving here, as a document will show. People here are slightly older, around family aged. This is a great place for people to come and have a family, raise kids. In a small town, quality of life is something I think needs to be preserved throughout this document. When it comes to housing, this is like a broken record. I think every community in the world is suffering from housing issues. Our county's no different. A lot of old housing here in the county, but all that housing is filled up. There's a very low vacancy rate. Majority of households are two-person, majority of rentals are one person, so it's the very typical. Pretty much every house here is filled, but a lot of houses are old. So I think that's something we'll need to examine is the housing stock here in the county.
Is it, when you go through them, is there assessments versus other, I know it's against other towns of similar size and whatever else, but like also taxing authorities and different things like that that could influence decisions people make within the county?
There is some, yeah, and we do have a few other firms we work with do housing studies that can look at things like that, provide more detailed analysis of, instead of just saying housing is old here in the county, it's, here's what you can do about it. I think that's kind of what we would like to get at.
Why people don't want to build new ones or whatever it may be.
Absolutely, yep, we'll explore that. I think one of the last things I want to touch on as far as data, so many communities, counties, especially after COVID, did the whole, work from home thing. People move here from other places to work remotely. Can't quite tell if that's what's going on here in the county right now, but nearly 50% of people drive 20 minutes or less to work. Being on the interstate, and in this day and age, I drive an hour to work. I drove from Lincoln to David City. That is not the case for a lot of people. A lot of communities, a lot of counties where people just kind of work where they live. So I think that was a really interesting point when we're looking at data. So, go ahead.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, really.
If there's anything that comes up that we think that maybe should be added to the survey, can that be done? Just
Absolutely.
a question. Okay.
Yeah. It's a draft form, so it's work best for you guys. So that is all I have, by the way.
Okay. Any other questions? All righty, I appreciate it. Thank you,
All right,
Mason.
thank you.
I guess I do have one quick question.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just for my information, who's your main contact? Is it Nathan or?
You mean the commission county, or what do you mean?
For the comprehensive plan, who's Marvin?
It's generally been through me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've met you yet, but we've been working with you, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, solar regulation discussion. So who wants to start discussing on solar regs? Thoughts, opinions?
So I guess being a little new to the committee here, my understanding is that the committee passed a set of regulations, plans on to the county commissioners. They sent them back with recommendations or no recommendations?
I have not seen
Sent them back.
formal regular, at least not that I've seen, formal recommendation. Yeah, so we would have been over a 3-year process, numerous public hearings, changed, drafted what we had, and then passed on to the commissioners, and then, yeah, sent back.
And then did Marvin, did they just read it?
They just hit the road.
But I don't, is he doing the solar stuff or recommendations through it?
It was my understanding he at least would have a knowledge, but I guess if he's.
Yeah.
I hope I wasn't there too.
I think they sent them back for us to review the setbacks, wasn't it?
That was from my understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
given that last joint meeting with our associates, that our classes, they thought our classes need to be reviewed. And the setbacks for particularly the class 3 and 4 or potentially merged.
They thought they were too wild, or?
I mean, that's kind of the way I was taking it.
Yeah.
Is it going?
Yeah.
I guess that would have been my question, is I know in that last, not really joint meeting, but commissioners meeting, they talked through some stuff. Do we have a copy of what those?
His big, yeah, it was potential setbacks was a concern, but also decommissioning and how we had that
Oh,
wrote up.
the bond, was that part of it?
Was bond or escrow? We had
Escrow
it as
account, escrow account is what we had, I believe. Yeah, they got that in there.
That's what this is their recommendation?
This is their recommendation after that.
Thank you, that's what I was.
Which this, honestly, is the first time I've seen this.
Yeah. Right, so Jason, yeah, don't feel bad.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is.
We all got it tonight.
I've never seen this either, yeah.
So, which is fine, kind of read through it, you know, that's, looks like under the recommendations on the last page, you know, they wanted us to maybe look at the setbacks, obviously, and reconsider vegetable buffer zones, and give burden of enforcement.
And so looking at this, I mean, we have the opportunity to, we can continue to start over.
I don't think we start over.
We can make adjustments, or we can rubber stamp and send back. I mean, just because it come back to us does not mean that we have to make adjustments.
Right.
There was some of it, especially maybe from the decommissioning, that made sense to me. Maybe combining classes, maybe.
That's what I mean, like what?
I'm still, as I've mentioned at every meeting, I'm a livestock guy. The bigger the livestock facility you are, the more setbacks you have.
That's correct, yeah.
And so I don't see this as much different than that. So that's kind of where I've stood and kind of where I'm still at today.
I know I asked it at that commissioners meeting, but they were talking about how solar panels are becoming more advanced and more high tech, and they're able to get more megawatts per acres and stuff. I asked that, I think it was Marvin, if we should look at, instead of categorizing them by so many megawatts, if we go by land area. I mean, I don't really recall he had a precise answer to that, but I don't know if that's, because I know he didn't like 3 and 4. I think he thought, in my opinion, the way I took it from him, he thought 3 and 4 should be combined, if you guys recall that.
Because then I'd basically take anything, my talking it was 3 and 4, 20 to 40 acres, and then anything above that was 4, without ripping it completely open.
So I mean, I think if you, because then I mean, as these things advance, and obviously solar's becoming more and more popular, if we're going by megawatts.
Yeah.
I mean, in the land area, because that's generally the concern from what I've been hearing from everyone, is the amount of land area they're taking up, not so much how much energy they're producing.
And I think after, because even after we passed it and sent it on, the commissioners had the opportunity to listen to Javier speak. One thing that did speak, just as a resident sitting in the back of the room, to hear him say that, yeah, this is basically a 10-year stopgap till we get small nuclear reactors. Since then, that's stuck with me, and especially as I've spoke with other state elected officials. Nebraska is going to be one of the first states that has small nuclear reactors, and we're going to move fast. And then, hell, we might see some of these large data set facilities that a lot of this has been pushed for. They might start bringing in their own new reactors. So that's just something to consider before you have a multiple thousand-acre array, and then you can have a small nuclear reactor that comes in on a semi-trailer that generates just as much power.
Well, I mean, to that note, your nuclear is going to be your baseline, and then these solars, the idea behind them, it'd be they could generate during their peak times. So I mean, nuclear can't just ramp up, ramp down. So
it stays once it's set.
Yeah, it's kind of your baseline. Then your solar would be like for your peak times a day. I mean, obviously they'd be generating more when everyone's air conditioner's kicking on, but that's kind of the idea behind it.
And we anticipate battery storage getting better too.
Yeah.
Well, that was something that was mentioned in here was battery storage, where you had no regulations on battery storage.
Which probably should have.
But we probably should have something, I don't know what, but once again, without, I wish,
And this probably,
and maybe we need to have Marvin's, these guys here to help us. You know, surely they went through this, I hope, of different types of zoning in different areas. You know, you look at Center Rules Affair, like 50 feet is all they want, you know, and whatever, but, you know, they don't live here. The only thing I didn't realize was that 2,500 feet from any residence. So where anybody else has a farm, he gets only 660 feet to save. Is there too much power for the residential guy? I know they ain't gonna like what I'm saying here, but.
there is power for the residential guy to negotiate though too.
Exactly,
The way the road.
but I'm gonna use Russ Obermeyer for instance. He sits on the corner next, coast, he can knock out 3/4. So, this guy over here, Chad, he's got a quarter, he can't knock nobody, now I'm saying that they would, but he only can knock out his own quarter, you know, 660 feet around him. Does a residence have too much say? If it was going up against my fence, I don't know if I'd say yes or no, I don't know, but, you know, if it wouldn't affect him or somebody else, I don't know.
I'd like to, you know, have any of you been able to experience a multiple thousand acre array?
Just drive by them down in Texas, that's the only place I've seen them.
I've had the opportunity to visit one down in Texas as well, that was about 3,500 acres, and
it's overwhelming.
It is, yes.
But I would hope.
Because the way this one is set up, and we're still talking zoning, but
Yes.
the only reason this has all been pushed is because of the project that's been put in front of us, would actually make it, by my understanding of the stats, would make it a top 10 size array in the country.
Okay.
If not top 5.
I like the idea of the zoning that it would jam, if they really did it right, it would jam it in, what would it take, 4 sections and just a little bit more, you know.
One spot.
In one spot. Just concentrated, it doesn't affect, whoever's around it's definitely gonna affect, but it's gonna affect a whole lot less than.
But as we've talked, we don't want to encapsulate anybody's yard.
No, I agree.
And we are still, yes, we're rural, but yeah, we're still populated enough county. Does anything like that actually exist in this county? That you could take?
Probably not. West, maybe. I don't think so. None in my area. Yeah, it's a tough, yeah. But there's some people that's for this that might control a bunch of ground where it could work, you know.
But we still can't completely encapsulate a yard that is
No.
non-participating.
No.
That's negotiable too.
It is.
Yeah. Everybody's got the opportunity to talk to to the people that are throwing this on, whether they say yes or no, to stay within that 660 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I see they got
numbers are.
I see they got recommendations here, but it's not like clear-cut recommendations, like, it's just kind of a push.
Just
not
kind of,
really a
yeah.
general direction, it's just kind of a push. So I don't know if we need to ask them more questions, like.
You mean Marvin?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they see this stuff all the time, so.
And I really don't think, I mean, we have no hurry. I mean, it's already drug on for 3 years and sent back.
Couple months, yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple years, I hate at this point.
Right.
Does anybody have, I mean, at this point, burning that they want to take changes, or do we want to continue just to look at it as we go forward?
I'd say we kick it back up to the commissioners, let them do what they think they want to do.
Just rubber stamp it where it stands today?
And send it back up to them, say, do what you gotta do. Because they're the guys that's gonna have the ultimate power, you know.
I mean, I personally think maybe at least look at the recommendations from Marvin, from what they picked apart in our first one wrong, and then maybe go from there.
So
Or
that's, I think we have.
this last page of 1 through 9, yeah.
And we can't do anything tonight, it's just all discussion, so we gotta have
Yeah.
one more meeting.
Yeah.
And if we did propose any changes tonight, we would have to have one more public hearing.
For public hearing,
Yes.
correct. So, that would be,
I guess like all these, I'd have questions for them, like, we could add standards for battery energy storage, but not really like any window of range of what you would add for storage systems, or consider consolidating standards for class 2, 3, 4 as commercial projects, but not which guideline to follow between 2, 3, or 4. I mean, there's just a few questions I'd like to ask of Marvin Planning Consultants to see what they'd have to say. I mean, they have the recommendations, but a little bit more guidance.
Luke, do you guys see it being out at the park? I mean, do you guys see anything about solar as far as the panels or anything like that in some of your brochure or some of your magazines you get or informational?
As far as like pertaining to this project?
Or just in general?
Just in general.
Just in general.
I mean, you'll see a few, but I mean, it's not like a high amount of noise. I mean, just more to like the generating side, not to actually like the installation or construction of them, or as far as zoning by any means.
Right. Like example, do they have examples of some farms out there you get to see, or?
I've never personally seen any. I mean, I've seen pictures just like the ones you're talking about in Texas, but I've never personally seen any of them. I've heard they're overwhelming. But
I didn't know some of your informational literature you get, did they have any of that stuff talking about that, or?
As far as what pertaining to like what we're working on, nothing. It's more just the energy generating side of it, or pros and cons stuff. It's not anything to the zoning or land mass or any of that stuff.
Okay.
And that's the thing that has made this hard, to not having anything close to it, even in the state, to compare to.
Right.
This one. And that's why we gotta be damn sure whatever we put in is done right. Because it's hard, and usually
take it
work your
back.
way back. It's hard to go back and get it.
Right.
And this, yeah, you can't, exactly. And this is all new, so that's why I think it is very important to make sure that cover all our bases, had a lot of public hearings from that standpoint.
I think the next one we gotta have these guys here.
For sure.
For consultation, or if they can't do it, we need somebody other than just us, you know? We've got Luke, you know.
And I've spoke with people from MPPD's board and Perennials board. There's a lot of just shoulder shrugging going on of where this actually goes and what.
They're gonna stay neutral,
Exactly, but it's still, I mean, a lot of question of the value of a lot of the renewables and where they can help. Our new administration, who knows where this thing goes now?
Right, right. I wonder if Marvin's even, oh man, I wonder if they're even good at this stuff. You know what I mean?
Chad, Jason, anybody else have comments?
I think we need some questions answered here.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Anybody have do we need a motion on this for the next, to move it to the next meeting, just table it, or just leave it open as discussion?
There was no action.
That's how I said there was no.
I think you could just move on and bring it up for the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
That is the case. That's where we'll stand for now. Any announcements, discussion for next meeting, December 16th?
Yeah, I think I've sent this to all you guys, and I think I mentioned it at the commissioners meeting, most recent one, but we're trying to do every third Monday just to get some consistency as a comp plan. So we'll plan for every third Monday unless, something else comes up and we'll change it as needed. But
I'm really looking forward to the comprehensive plan and surveying and seeing what the results there. And
That's kind of neat.
It's gonna be a lot of work, but
Yeah,
it'll be
it's
great.
gonna be neat.
So. Alrighty, if that is the case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second, meeting is adjourned.
I'm RJ Post, I'm with the York News Times.